What is a good way to make money, but also a low risk? Today, we're going to go over that in this video of how to make good money at a low risk. And this is also going to be how you can have your money make money and compound, which is what we all want, just more money in our pockets. Some of the things we're going to be going over in today's video are going to be government bonds. We're going to also be going over CDs, normal savings account, and of course, if you should have an HSA account, because that's more money that you can have in your back pocket as well. Starting off with government bonds. Most countries across the entire globe actually have government bonds. And the definition of a government bond is bonds are security representing loans to companies or governments. They are fixed income instruments issued by entities like the U.S. Department of the Treasury, local governments, and companies. This is all in an attempt for you to be able to buy basically a piece of paper is more or less what you're going to be doing, and it's a loan that you give to the company or the government. They take that money and they use it to where they feel fit. And then after that said time is up, they'll give you the money back with interest. The history of government bonds actually date back all the way to the 17th century with the Bank of England and William III. William III is actually the one that we can trace back to introducing the government bonds when he adopted the approach of issuing bonds to raise government debt, inspired by the 7 Dutch provinces where he ruled as a stadtholder. And then, of course, here in the United States of America, we used it during the Revolutionary War in order to generate money for funds for the war. And it's what helped the colonies get the funding needed in order to win. So it's pretty cool that, at least in the United States, it's been around since the beginning of it. And now we have it more modernized in today's world. Now, of course, the biggest thing with government bonds is people going to be asking the question, how much money can you make? This is all going to vary very much depending on where you're located at within the globe, what government bond you're buying, what type of government bond you're buying, how long-term you're buying or short-term that you're buying, and how much money you're putting forth and where those interest rates are at that time of purchasing the government bond. So that is a very different question that is going to vary in a wide variety of ways. The biggest thing to note, though, is that government bonds are going to have a better interest rate than just leaving your money in the bank in a normal savings account, and that's why you always want to be having some type of better interest rates, and a government bond is a good way to do it. And it also helps your entire country out and the community out around you by doing it. You can purchase bonds often by brokerages or even through mutual funds and exchange traded funds, otherwise known as ETFs. There are several different types of government bonds you can buy, which are starting from marketable securities. Marketable securities have your treasury bills, which are going to be your short-term debt with maturities of 1 year or less, the treasury notes, which are intermediate term debt with maturities ranging from 2 to 10 years, and then you have your treasury bonds, which are the long-term debt with maturities exceeding anywhere from 10 years plus. There are also other ones such as the treasury inflation protected securities, otherwise known as TIPS. These are bonds that are protected against inflation. We also have floating rate notes, FRNs, debt with variable interest rates. So this is an interesting one as well. And then we also have Federal Financing Bank, FFB. These securities are to support federal agencies. The average interest rates for marketable securities are calculated monthly. There are also non-marketable securities. These securities cannot be negotiable or transferable and not sold on the secondary market like the previous ones we just mentioned. These ones are going to consist of the savings bond. This is issued in various series. We also have the government account series, which is known as GAS securities, used for government accounts. And then we have, of course, the state and local government series, SLGS. These are designated for state and local governments. And then we have the domestic series and foreign series, non-marketable debt instruments. All these are different varieties of government bonds that you can help put your money towards and what will help fund these. And it's important to look at each one of these and see which one you want to help the most, and maybe which one has the most interest rates. The thing to remember with government bonds is your money cannot be taken out once you purchase the government bond. So it's important to always have some money held back into a savings account in case of an emergency, because you don't know when you're going to need that money. And this money is going to be completely locked away. Similar to my personal favorite way to make a little bit more money and a secure way to make money, which is the certificates of deposits, CDs, and not the CDs that you put in, listen to music or watch, okay? This is going to be CDs that you can put your money towards to generate more money. And the cool thing about CDs is you can take your money out, but there is going to be a penalty involved, and it's best to just leave that money in for the term that you've designated that money to be in, and let that interest keep compounding while it's in there as well. CDs are really cool because the origins of the CDs have actually dated all the way back to the 1600s, which is really cool. And then in the 1800s is when banks in the United States began offering certificates of deposits. The definition of a CD are deposit accounts held at banks and credit unions. They serve as an alternative to savings accounts for interest rates. They generally have a higher interest rates than any savings account or a premium high yield account that you'll see. But again, your money's going to be locked away. It's important to take advantage of it though, and I highly would suggest at least having a little bit of money extra to put into it. Most banks and credit unions are going to have a minimum amount of money that you have to put in. I have seen it range anywhere from $500 to $1,000 minimum to take advantage of the CD account. CDs work similar to government bonds where you can get them for different lengths of time. For a CD, personally, I actually have it on 3 months, and I have rotating money. So what I mean by that is I'll put in, let's say, $1,000 one month, $1,000 the next month, and $1,000 the next month after that. And so every month my money I have go back into my savings account, and then I manually put it back in instead of having it automatically go back in. And the reason for that is just in case I need it, I can have it. So that is why I personally do the 3 month. Normally, the longer term you go, the more interest rates will go up for it, and then you can have that money compound longer because you can get all the way up to a 30-year plan. It's just having your money work for you, and you don't have to do anything besides go on your computer, go into your bank, and have a minimum deposit to put down and just keep that money locked away. So this begs the question, why not just keep your money in a normal savings account? It's easy access. A lot of people just have their paychecks automatically go there. When they pay for stuff, it just automatically drains. Why would I want to have more accounts? That's a very good question. Savings accounts have an average interest rate right now of the recording of this video of 0.57%, which is not generating hardly crap for money. If you put it in a CD right now, you can make a lot more money off that same amount of money that you put in. Of course, it's easier to access this money, but you're not having your money really make money for you. And with an average inflation rate in the United States of 3% annually, and only an interest rate of 0.57% that your account is going up, that means that you're losing out on 2% essentially of money a year. So you put $100 in and it's worth $100, but at the end of that year, you've gained 0.57%, while actually losing 2% due to inflation. So you've lost 2% of that $100. So that $100 is now not worth the $100 at the end of the year. It's going to be worth like $98. Whereas putting it into the CD, you can counter that inflation a lot better. And you can actually generate some money depending on where those interest rates are at. It's important to only keep what you need into a savings account, but not all of your money into a savings account. Have that money be working for you in other ways. The origins of a savings account is pretty cool. It even dates back even farther than the CDs, going all the way back to the 1500s. Now, something that I personally just started using and that I would highly recommend to really anybody, even if you don't have medical problems, is going to be a health savings account. It's also known as the HSA. The reason I say to be using an HSA is because it can be a write-off for any medical expenses. So even if you have kids and you're constantly buying Band-Aids or something, you can use this HSA account. The definition of an HSA are tax-advantaged accounts for medical expenses. They are available to individuals with high-deductible health insurance, and that is what I have through my employer. The purpose of an HSA is to allow you to save pre-tax dollars for qualified medical expenses. This money is yours. How they work is by contributing to an HSA are tax-deductible, and withdrawals for medical expenses are tax-free. Unused funds can roll over from year to year. That is why I highly suggest having an HSA account. And the HSA is actually fairly new. which is actually pretty cool because we were seeing a lot of old history in the previous topics that we've talked about, but in this one, it was actually in the 1970s when the health savings account started coming around. In 1996, the Health Insurance Probability and Accountability Act came out, and then it got formalized and started getting pushed through by December 31st in 2003. So that's how new the health savings account is, and I highly recommend it. You can only put in a certain amount of money, but you can also put that money into stocks and bonds, and anything that's medical related at all for any reason, you can use that money on, and it's your money. And of course, that money in investments can actually generate more money and won't go against your cap of how much you can put into that account. What are these better ways to make money? Well, that is really interesting as well. You can have gambling, you can have stocks. Stocks are a very good way to make money, but they're not necessarily the most secure way to make money. And I can cover that in a whole nother video over here talking about stocks.